It's 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, which means that it's time for Ready, Steady, Vote, a show that is brought to you by Masterton District Council, where we are diving into everything election related so that our community is ready to stand, enrol and vote this year. Today, we welcome a former councillor, Brent Gare, who was elected to council in 2019, where he served one term. Most of you will know Brent as the voice of More FM, where he is the operations manager and hosts Wairarappa's Breakfast Club show. You may also recognise him from his work as a rugby coach, a referee, local theatre supporter, event MC, or as a nominee in the Women's Day Hottest Radio Hunk contest in 2018. So thank you for being here, Brent, to share your pearls of wisdom about what it's like to be an elected member. How does it feel to be the interviewee for a change?
It's not too bad. That's quite a list, actually, Bella, isn't it? That is quite a list. I'm not sure about the 2018 one. I think anyone could have gone in for that. But hey, great to be here. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
No worries. It's great to have you here. And today, we're going to be diving into more of your experiences as a councillor, what it's like nominating yourself, what it's like doing a campaign, what it's like actually becoming an elected member. And we're keen to just hear if you have anything to share with people who might be thinking about standing this time around.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I thought maybe we'd start in the very beginning. Well, when you're sworn in, when you're at that ceremony, what does it feel like?
It's quite special. It's quite formal. I think it's a really important and beautifully traditional sort of process, and welcomed onto the marae, and then actually, I guess that's when it really hits. That's when you get that real feeling is actually people have actually put their hand up and voted for you to do a specific job. So it was a really special feeling, and I think any chance you get to represent your district or your province is an absolute honour. So yeah, I was over the moon. I was stoked.
Yeah. So leading up to that point, obviously you had run a campaign and you've got a bit of profile in town already. People know who you are because you join them for their morning drive every day. But what was it like campaigning?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I mean, obviously I've been in radio for a significant amount of time and done lots of marketing and sales and all that sort of stuff. But it's really different when you're promoting yourself as opposed to someone else or someone else's product. So, yeah, it was an interesting sort of, I guess you take the time to sit down and go, what are my thoughts, what are my feelings, what do I stand for, and then how do I then convey that? And despite the job I do, promoting yourself is a whole different kettle of fish. And I don't think Kiwis are necessarily used to that kind of putting yourself up on a pedestal and certainly putting yourself out there type moment. So even I in this industry, I found it challenging. And you never know what you're going to get and what questions you're going to get. You may not necessarily have all the answers at time, and that's okay. I think just working out what you stand for and why you're standing is the important thing, and then that's the platform to launch from there.
Okay, that's some really good insight, because ideally everyone who's standing is standing with, an idea or something in mind, something that they see, the vision for Masterton's future. What were some of the things that you felt were important when you stood?
Oh, look, I think, and I realised the process later, and I think everyone does, if they're fortunate to get elected to council, is that good things take time, and they take a long time because there is quite a bit of process. So, look, I felt it was important to get action on a few things. The town hall was one of them, and I know that's still a controversial issue. And just representing, I guess, a younger demographic. We had a lot of older councillors, not a bad thing. That experience is very much needed around the table. But for me, I wasn't sure that there was anyone necessarily representing younger families, so I wanted to go in with that angle, and did. So, was fortunately successful and elected.
Yeah, and how did you find that, obviously being someone with a young family, I know your kids were really busy with theatre and those sorts of things at the time. What was it like finding the balance between work and your other job and your family? That's a lot of plates to be spinning.
Yeah, it is. I think, Bella, I've always worked more than one job. I like to be busy, and it's finding the right balance to, I guess, work and family. And I think, literally schedule everything into your diary. For me, it was like, cool, for that hour or that 2 hours, I'm doing that. So I had time set aside every week to do things like read council papers or research projects, as well as making sure I had time to go back and ask questions of something I wasn't quite sure of or clarity on something, with a mix of the kids have got to be here, work's, got this demand on my time, so I've got to make sure I've got plenty of time for that. So, yeah, it was challenging but doable. And I think I was fortunate enough in my position to start early in the morning, so I had more time in the afternoon to devote to that sort of thing. So I didn't find that part of it too challenging. You just have to be planned and organised. And let's just say I'm a lot more planned and organised now than what I was probably in 2019. So, yeah, it can be a bit of a challenge.
Okay, so that's maybe a skill or a thing that you took away from that time.
Very much so.
As learning the art of scheduling,
Very
the
much.
art of diary management.
Marie Kondoed my diary, shall we say. So, yeah, that was important.
Yeah, were there any other things that were a surprise for you? I know you kind of alluded to, when you stand, you've got big ideas and big, ideas about the vision, and then getting there and realising that there's, process and checks and balances and lots of things and hoops and hurdles to jump through before you can, make a thing happen.
Exactly. Look, I'd encourage anyone to stand for council. I think it's a wonderful process to go through, a wonderful experience, and I think the more research you do yourself prior to putting your hand up is really important. So it may be talking to current or former elected members. It might be having those conversations about their experiences and what you can take out of that. And reading things like, as boring as it sounds, really important, the Local Government Act. And you'll realise actually not so much the limitations, but the system you're working in, and then how best can you operate within that system to get your thoughts, your ideas, and anything across the line. And of course, you're working with the other elected members, so you're having those discussions as well. So, yeah, I think it's do your research would be number one, and that's really important, and to actually get an understanding of how local government works. It is a big beast. There's no doubt about that.
Yep, and more reform is coming our way from central government as well, so there will be yet more changes. I guess that's the thing, it's not you've learnt it all and then it. It will be a continual, process of learning. And
very much so, and I think, Bella, that's the other important thing is that a lot of people don't realise is how much from central government is put on local government to do. And so people might say, oh, that costs that much, or you've got to do it this way. It's like, yeah, we have to, effectively by legislation, so by law, if you will. So council don't necessarily have a say in how that is rolled out. That is a government edict, if you will. So, and quite often when you explain that to someone, their eyes sort of glass over and they're like, oh, okay, cool. And it's not a cop-out. That is literally how it is.
Yeah.
So that can be a little more challenging. And so you learn that along the way as well, and going, oh, I wanted to do that, but actually we have to do it this way. And that's really important to understand, not so much the restraints, but the system you're working in and how best to work within that system.
Yeah, that's interesting. And obviously you're helped to understand and learn that system by, maybe councillors who have been there, for terms before you, who get there, who have that experience, and then also the council staff whose job it is to help you do a good job and give you all of the information you need.
Yeah.
How did you find that relationship?
I found it really good. I found that I had literally every single piece of information I could have wanted. It was about the old story of how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, is focus on one area and understand that before you move on to the next one. I thought that was really important. I thought the induction was fantastic, and I learnt a heck of a lot in a small amount of time. This is a great role for people who like reading. Reading's one thing, understanding it's another, because like I said, local government is a beast. So you've really got to break it down into bite-sized chunks, if you will, and go, cool, I need to work my way through this. And like I said, I'm a bit of a doco watcher geek and a bit of a researcher, so I didn't mind sitting down and I spent one Sunday going through everything and writing notes and questions so I could go back to council staff and say, well, how does this work? What about that? So I wanted to get up to speed as quickly as I could, so that was a really good learn for me.
Yeah, and then you mentioned earlier, you have to work with the other people who are elected to council.
Yeah.
What's that like? Because obviously there will be a range of experience in that room. How many new councillors or fresh faces were on with you?
Oh, I'm just trying to remember. I think it was at least 3 or 4. Yeah, it's not so much working with them. It's also trying to find common ground on, the difference of opinion. Obviously, is there. One person has one thought, one has another as well. Actually, how do we achieve the same goal? Because generally speaking, the outcome is what is best for your district. And I think you've got to keep that overarching as what is best for the district, and then you can find out different ways and means of doing it. It was an interesting time. It was probably one of the worst times to stand, if I'm honest. Unbeknownst to anyone, there was that global pandemic in the middle.
Yeah.
And that changed.
That really threw a spanner in the works, didn't it?
It really did.
Yeah.
But again, not necessarily a negative, because we learnt a lot out of that as well, I think, not only as individuals, but certainly as a community. So there wasn't anything majorly negative, to be honest. Like I said, if you were prepared to put your hand up, then all power to you. I think good on you. Just make sure you've got the time and effort to be able to put into it. Because you'll only get out what you put in. I'm all about community, always have been, and I got the chance to meet some amazing people who are doing fabulous things within certainly the Masterton district where I was elected. So I don't regret that one bit.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Lynn was very clear about as well when I spoke to her 2 weeks ago, was that it was the people and it was the being out in the community
100%.
and meeting Mastertonians and hearing their ideas and, their thoughts about town that was the real draw for her and the thing she really enjoyed most about the job.
Yeah.
Which sounds like that's something that you would echo.
Oh, look, if you're a people person, you will absolutely love it. If you're a bit shy and retiring, this probably isn't the role for you, to be fair. You do need to be strong, but you're elected to be a leader in the community for a number of areas. So, and you'll get inquiries from why is the doggy do bin not there, through to how can I save money on rates and all that sort of stuff. And these are normal questions from everybody. No one wants to spend more money on anything. And every election cycle, it's interesting because the same questions come up and the same answers are there. It's just whether or not you want to accept them or hear them or listen to them, I suppose is the other thing. And like I was referring to earlier, there's a lot of stuff that is 100% legislated that council has to do that actually have very little control over. And I think it's understanding that going in as potentially an elected member is you're not necessarily, like I said, limited to what you can do. It's how do you work within that system to get it across the line. Yeah,
so you mentioned the Local Government Act was, well worth reading. It's the thing that governs your job and how you operate. I know Lynn suggested that people have a look at the annual report, at the annual plans, the long-term plan, read those documents to get an idea of where we're heading, what we've budgeted for, what we've planned for. Because often people will say, well, what about this? So we should be doing that, and say it's planned in for year 4 of the long-term plan. So we'll get there. Is there anything else that you think people should read or? Stay
engaged, I think, Bella, is the main thing. You're right. Go through the council website. It's really good. And you can get a lot of information from there as well as the reports and stuff. You do need to be a little financial savvy, so you need to be able to understand the financial reports and what's going where and why. But yeah, go through the website, have a look. A lot of people don't realise, I guess, the extent of the services that council offer or the work that they do. So it's well worth going through the website with a fine-tooth comb, shall we say, and having a bit of a look, because it is quite mind-blowing. And a lot of people had said to me, I didn't realise council did that, or why don't you do this, or how come you do that? And so it's good to be able to answer those questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, being able to say, I don't know, but I'll ask and I'll get back to you.
100%.
Is the best answer if you don't know. Yeah, so obviously being a people person is a positive. Are there any other kind of attributes or things that you think make a good councillor?
I think if you make a decision, the ability to actually stand by it and stand up for what you believe was the right decision. Whether you're on the right or wrong side of the vote is irrelevant, but it is important that, hey, I've made this decision, here are the reasons why. Because a lot of people will ask you that question too. Oh, you voted for this, or you suggested that, why? And then, provided you can give good conviction to your answers, I think that's the other thing. So you need to be prepared to back yourself and back what decisions you make. And you never ever, I suppose that's the best piece of advice, you will never keep everyone happy all of the time. It just simply isn't possible. So if you're a people pleaser, probably isn't the position for you.
Okay, so people persons,
Yep.
but not people pleasers.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything else that you particularly enjoyed about the job?
I think I alluded to it earlier. You don't necessarily. Everyone lives in their own little bubble, I think, quite often. So you don't necessarily will interact with the wide diversity that we have in the Masterton district. So whether that be different ethnic groups, different religions, different age groups. I was fortunate to be appointed to youth council, which I thoroughly enjoyed, probably because I was the youngest councillor at the time and I had kids around that age. But I found that fascinating because it's a whole different perspective and it changes your thought process because you're getting a different perspective on what ethnic, minorities think, what iwi think, what youth think and what elderly think. And I think that's really important to at least be open to that information and that discussion and hear their concerns. You're not going to solve the problems of the world, but as long as you hear them and you can make some steps to remedy or answer those questions, I think that goes a very, very long way.
Okay, marvellous. Well, we're going to take a moment now, or take a beat, and listen to a song. So as anyone who listened to the program last fortnight will know, I've asked our lovely council staff to nominate songs that they feel particularly strongly about. This one is by Rose Betts. It's called Six, and it's been nominated by Corin Haynes, who is our General Manager of Community. And he has said that he's chosen it because he loves this emerging artist. It has strong Irish roots and definitely a folky vibe, but with a modern twist. So we'll take a little break now and leave you with Six by Rose Betts.
Six dead pieces on the seashore that the waves brought in for cleaning. And when the people found them, they asked for more. Six dead pieces on the seashore that the waves brought in for cleaning. But when the night came in, there was only four. There was only four. Blood and tears, I'm getting tired of facing your fears, your fears. Blood and tears, I'm getting tired of facing your fears. Six dead pieces on the seashore that the waves brought in for healing. But then you left us there. What you do that for? What you do that for? Six dead pieces lying stone cold with the smell of death upon them. Oh, is there time still left to release the hold? To release the hold. Blood and tears, I'm getting tired of facing your fears, your fears. Blood and tears, I'm getting tired of facing your fears. And you can count every time that the hammer falls, and you can hold up your pain like a lightning bolt. But the feeling, it's bleeding into everything. You can kill every flower that your daydreams touch, and you can cry for the world that you hate so much. But I left the door open. Why didn't you turn? blood and tears. I'm getting tired of facing your fears, your fears. Blood and tears. I'm getting tired of facing your fears. 6 dead pieces on the seashore that the waves brought in for cleaning. But when the night came in, there was only 4. There was only 4.
That was 6 by Rose Betts. So thank you, Corin, for that Irish folky modern twist number. So yeah, we're back with Brent to talk a little bit more about... a little bit more about elections and elected members and standing and becoming a councillor. In the break, we discussed a little bit that maybe the public doesn't always necessarily know what council does. Is that something that you found when you were out and about as a...
Yeah, a little bit in certain areas, absolutely. But like I said, if you do loads of research before you want to put your hand up, or even during that campaign, I think you've got about 6 or 7 weeks to get your nominations in. That's really important. The other thing I'd very much encourage you to do is go along to the election info night. That's really important because, again, between now and then, maybe come up with a few questions that you're not so sure about. And if you're comfortable asking them in front of a group, then you're going to be comfortable, I think, around the council table as well. So you have the opportunity to ask those quietly on the side too. But I think that's really important, is that you go in with eyes wide open, and you will go in with 100% energy and 100% vigour, and that's great. And the challenge for you is to continue that through the entire term if you're fortunate enough to get elected. But do your research. Very, very much do your research and know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, you mentioned the candidate information evening there.
Yep.
So I'll remind viewers and listeners that is the 26th of June, so that's next Thursday. That will be held at Waiata House, 27 Lincoln Road. The event is on our website, it's on our Facebook page, and then there will also be a full page spread in the paper this week with lots of other information about standing as a candidate, and it will direct you to all of the things that you need to read and the forms you need to fill out and the things that you need to be aware of before you stand.
Yep.
And then LGNZ have put out a really great free online course that again helps to break down the structure of local government, what your mandate is, how it all works, and what you can expect as a new councillor. So we'd really recommend that anyone considering standing goes and takes a look at that as well.
Yep. Don't wait till the information night. You can start your research now and start looking through those bits of information out there now.
Yeah, absolutely. So candidate nominations open on the 4th of July. They close on the 1st of August. But yeah, as you say, there's no reason why you can't be doing your research before then.
Yep.
And, thinking about who your nominators might be, and getting your forms filled out and not leaving it to the last minute like Lynn did. She told us in the last episode, the final day, she had to get her neighbour to reach over and sign her bit of paper. I would love to hear if you have any other advice for people when they're standing. Obviously, you've said research and reading and knowing that you can't do it all at once, and operating within the system that kind of is around you.
Yep.
Is there anything else maybe from that kind of internal, self-belief or something like that you would...
Yeah, great question.
Encourage people to think about?
Great question. I think, Bella, take the time to get to know people outside your circle. Everyone will tell you they're going to vote for you. There's no way in heck you're going to ever see those voting papers, so everyone will tell you that. It doesn't necessarily make it true. But quiz them. What's important to them? Do they understand what council do? Do they just get a rates bill and pay it. Have they had their say before? Are they engaging with council? If not, why not? And all that sort of thing. And I had some of these robust discussion with good friends of mine, and with a couple from a local iwi as well, to find out where they sat on things, and I thought that was really important. I think just getting outside your comfort zone, it will push you, and that's a good thing because that promotes growth. So, just get out and about, introduce yourself to people that you wouldn't normally maybe talk to or interact with, because that's really important. Because you will be doing that when elected.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are elected to represent the whole district.
Correct.
So you've got to have everyone's best interests at heart. Are there any things that you particularly took away from your term that you're proud of having done, or I guess projects or groups or relationships or something that...
Yeah, there's probably quite a bit, Bella. Probably youth council I'll start with. So that model changed while I was on council and who was delivering that particular service. But the mantra was all the same, is we're here to give youth a voice. And what I discovered was that the young people that live in Masterton are fabulous. My kids were one, obviously, but then I wanted to hear from others as well. And they had different opinions to what youth council did. And I was coaching and refereeing rugby, so, I heard from different facets of our society. So I think giving youth a voice on council was great. We ended up getting some of our youth to present to council at council meetings and stuff, which put them outside their comfort zone, but also promoted a little bit of growth, I think, within themselves. Seeing some of those go on to do different jobs around the province was really cool, because it's almost like watching your pseudo kids grow up, if you will.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
We have a great contingent of youth councillors at the moment. It's really humming, and so they're not recruiting at the moment, but they will be again next year. So if you know any young people aged between 12 and 24, then we're always looking for more youth councillors to come and get involved. And as you say, you guys really kicked off the presenting to council and coming to meetings and being heard, and that's something that is really just part of the job now for them, which is really cool to see.
The other thing, because it was such a challenging term with COVID and everything else, I think looking around at how many amazing community groups we have in the region, whether that be repurposing food, whether that be providing emergency meals or housing or clothing or winter blankets, winter jackets, that sort of stuff. I got to work alongside the awesome team at the community centre. Their capacity for food was growing, and so we managed to go and get them an extra oven to meet the demand. So that was really cool. That was quite a proud moment too, because there was a lot of people struggling, and there still are for different reasons this time, but they've now got the capacity to continue to help supporting the community. So for me, it was little things like that I'm not the kind of guy that stand up on the top of a building and preach about how amazing I was and do that sort of stuff. But it was those little things that quite often flew under the radar that people didn't see that I thoroughly enjoyed doing.
Yeah, and I guess that speaks kind of to the variety of the role, is that you really don't know, one day to the next what you might end up doing.
No, not at all.
You might be at a citizenship ceremony, you might be planting trees, you might be installing an oven, you might be manning the barbecue you might be manning the barbecue at a pop-up or a community event, or
definitely did that.
It's really
a few times.
Yeah, you really are kind of putting your hand up to say yes to whatever is required. And that's something that Lynn brought up as well, is you're not just a councillor, you will end up with lots of other jobs. So for example, you're the representative for youth council. Cobblestones,
I thoroughly enjoyed being the Masterton representative on Cobblestones. I'm into history, so I found that fascinating, and it's a bit of a jewel in Wairarappa's crown, to be fair. Going out and doing that sort of stuff as well was fantastic, and I found that dealing with the diversity of different groups around the region really, really fulfilling and rewarding. I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
because that's, I think, potentially something that, new candidates may not realise is that there is a number of committees, steering groups, working groups.
Yep, lots.
Lots and lots of those that sit outside of your main councillor duties of coming to council meetings and reading those agendas, that you will also be involved in loads of other things.
And that's really exciting. That's actually fun because you do a wide variety of things, and I think that's one of the attractions to the role. Is you get to represent the district on many different fronts, if you will. And like I said, there's topics out there and things out there going on that are huge to some people and not so huge to others. And it's recognising that when you're talking to those different groups. Learn the skill of listening. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have all the answers, but you do have to listen and take their opinions on board. And I think that's really important. Mm-hmm. Keeping an open mind is I think it's actually written into the Local Government Act. But nonetheless, you've got to keep an open mind, because there were several times where my thought process was changed by talking to different people and getting their perspective and things. And I kind of went, actually, yeah, they've got a point. Or we hadn't thought of that. So just because you're an elected member and you're sitting around the table doesn't mean you know everything. And recognising that and acting on that to get the right information, I think is really important.
Mm. So are there any things about this election that you're looking forward to? Obviously, campaigning will kick off in the not too distant future. We'll start to see billboards going up on the sides of roads and posters and things. You'll start to see our election materials up in stores from tomorrow, is the plan. We'll be really making it that visual impact that it is election time. It's time to stand. It's time to run for council. What are you going to be looking at and looking for?
Something a little different. You can go out and you can do the same old, and that's great, and that works to a certain extent. But I think for me, knowing what I know now, is I think you can read between the genuine and the uninformed. It's putting it politely, but you really get to know who's done their research from how they campaign, to know what they can and can't achieve in that first term. And seeing how the candidates fall within that. It really is an interesting process, and I think you can do everything from street corner meetings to social media, all that sort of stuff, but not everyone's on that corner and not everyone's on social media. So think to yourself how you're going to get out and do stuff, and I think that's really important. The only other thing, to be fair, that I was really proud of was we got across the line the extension of water storage at Masterton's water facility. So that was really cool. We managed to get a land purchase through and get that done. So for me, anyone who talks water will have my ear. That is the single biggest issue this election for me, is water and how we deliver those services, whether that be in a combined model or go alone or whatever. How we deliver all those services, because no one wants to talk about sewage, but it's really important going forward for me. That is
sewage isn't sexy, is it? But it's not, really important.
Neither are pipes, neither are roads, unless it's your road and your sewage pipe. But those are the sort of things. It's water is the single biggest issue facing New Zealand, to be fair.
Yeah. That's interesting, and not there is a lot of change coming in the water space.
There is.
But I would say generally that kind of infrastructure side of things, people are elected onto council, they're not civil engineers.
No.
But you have to kind of get to grips with sometimes some really big and complex systems. How did you find that?
I would get a paper that staff had spent hours preparing. And again, going back to when I got council papers to read ahead of a meeting, for me it was reading it, it was understanding it and making notes for what I didn't know so I could go back and ask questions. And quite often I'd bring other councillors, more experienced councillors, to get their view on it as well, because obviously they'd had the previous term's experience and maybe had a bit more background knowledge. So for me that was key. But But I would quite often, I found the staff were really good, that you could just sort of pull one aside and say, hey, I'm not quite sure about this, or can you explain that in a bit more detail? And then, again, it comes down to doing your research before you make a decision. And look, there were decisions that I was on one side and then on the other. Some that got through, some that did not. That's the nature of the job. That's the nature of the position. You've got to be prepared to not win all the time as well. I think that's really important. And leave it in the council chamber. You can't hold a grudge, or as soon as you leave the council chamber, it's hats off. It's like playing a game of footy.
Yeah.
You leave it on the field, and then you go and share a beverage together. So that's really important too.
Yeah.
So that's probably quite a good little piece of advice for anyone that's thinking of standing, because, like I said, you won't get it right every time.
No.
According to some.
Yeah. And I guess that's probably something that we definitely saw in those previous terms, but is becoming more and more of a thing, is that things aren't left in the council chamber necessarily, but our community is very active and very vocal online, and so there's lots of discussion kind of happening on places like Facebook and things like that. And so it can be hard sometimes to disconnect, I guess, from it.
Yeah.
And was that hard?
That's a real thing. There's a lot of, I know the term has been probably overused, but keyboard warriors out there, many of which don't even live in the district, which I thought was hilarious. But you do have to have a bit of a thick skin. I think that's really important. There will be people out there that will, call you names and abuse you and all that sort of thing. It happens. It's not acceptable. It's not part of the role. Criticism is one thing on a decision. Criticism on an individual is a different level. And I think local government across the country has struggled with that, with a lot of their elected members, more recently in Nelson. But for me, it was just, cool, that's your opinion. I have a different view. You have to leave it at that. Social media has its place, but it's not always fabulous.
No, not always. Is there anything else that you feel like we haven't talked about that you're like, oh, if I was talking to someone today or someone gave me a call and said I'm thinking about standing, is there anything else that you would, or what your kind of like top line ideas are that you would make sure to tell them?
Do it. There's no greater honour than being elected to represent your district, or where you live, where you grew up, and the wonderful area that we call home. Your views might not be the same as others around the table or others in the community, but wholeheartedly encourage you, do your research, see whether that position is for you, but 100% do it. Don't leave it till the last minute. Make a decision and stick by it. You will enjoy it, you will learn, you will grow, and you'll get to meet some just simply amazing people.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Brent. We really appreciate it. It's great to hear from people who've been there and done that, to maybe demystify the experience for people who are thinking about going there and doing that. So yeah, I'd just really love to say thank you very much for joining us. And we will be listening to our second song of the show, which has been nominated by Gabe, our IT extraordinaire. It is Leisure by Lonely Nights, and he says this is a great New Zealand band that I keep finding myself coming back to. It's great vibes and a nice smooth sound. So we will go and listen to that, and we'll say cheerio to you, Brent.
Thank you.
Can I replace all your lonely nights? replace all your lonely nights? Lonely nights. Can I replace all your lonely nights? Lonely nights. Can I replace all your lonely nights? Lonely nights. Can I replace lonely nights? Lonely nights.
Okay, that was Lonely Nights by Leisure, and thank you to Gabe for nominating that one. So before we leave, I have just a few other notices to pass along. So as we mentioned earlier, that Candidates Information Evening will be at Waiata House on the 26th of June from 7 p.m. That will also be live streamed to our YouTube channel. So you are welcome to watch it live from home. You are welcome to catch up on demand. But as Brent mentioned, well worth coming along to. Our electoral officer, Warwick Lamp, will be there, as well as a number of council staff. So you'll be able to ask any questions that you have, and it will give you some really good insight into the nomination and the campaign process. Speaking of nominations, those forms will be available on our website this week. If you get a local paper, I would encourage you to check that out on Thursday, where we'll have a full-page ad which directs you to the LGNZ course. It will direct you to the candidate handbook. It will direct you to more details about that candidate information evening, and really just give you a cheat sheet, essentially, of where to go for information about standing. We will also have that printed out, and that will be available at all of our locations. So that is 161 Queen Street, the Customer Service Centre, Waiata House at 27 Lincoln Road, and at the Masterton District Library, 54 Queen Street. The next thing, if you're not standing but you are thinking about enrolling and voting, I would encourage you to do that today. If you're not enrolled, you can grab a paper form from, again, any of our locations. You can also do it online. So whichever suits you best, I would encourage you to enrol today. You need to have enrolled by the 1st of August if you would like your papers mailed to you. If you don't make that cutoff, it's not too late. You can still vote, but what you'll need to do is cast a special vote, which involves either us coming to you or you coming to council, and doing it that way. So if you're not enrolled by the 1st of August, it's not the end of the world, but I would really encourage you to do it by then. And if you're uncertain about whether you are enrolled, or if perhaps you've moved house since the last election, you can go online and check or update your details. So just go to vote.nz, and you can do it all there. The next thing, as I mentioned earlier, is that we will have posters going up around town very shortly. So we've had these posters translated into Samoan, Hindi, Tagalog and Te Reo Māori. So if you would like to have a poster or several posters for your community events, for your workplace, for anywhere that you are out and about, please get in touch with us. We are happy to provide you with our easy read resources, our translated posters, enrolment forms, really anything. If you have a question, if you need something, please get in touch with us. So you can call us on 06 370 6300 or email communications@mstn.govt.nz, and we'll be happy to help you access anything you need, answer any of your questions, or point you in the right direction. So I would like to say thank you very much for joining us for our second show. Next time we will be speaking with Jerry from Masterton District Council, getting a kind of an insider perspective of what it's like from council side to be doing an election process. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.